Hello and welcome to Tactically Sound, an RPG-focused podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-host, JumbyJumbwa, aka Matt. And this is our current series, which is serving as a Fallout deep dive on all things related to the show. So we've been breaking down Season 1 episode by episode, so highly encourage that you watch this podcast if you've seen the show. This is the breakdown of the beginning, which is actually episode 7, the last episode of the show. And Matt and I were talking about next week we'll probably talk about the music of the show and compare that to some of the more recent games. So we'll have more on Fallout next week, and then we're planning a new series on Oblivion. So if you're an Elder Scrolls fan, Matt is getting his wishes with swords and boards.
Oh, yeah.
So Matt, are you excited to go to a fantasy land where you're most comfortable?
I am very excited, and you already know that I'm going to be hunting for my first sword. But although in Skyrim, my first playthrough, like most of you guys, was that sneaky archer. So we'll see where I end up fitting in. But guys, I love me a good sword. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so that'll be super fun because we were kind of planning out what we're going to do next for our podcast. And we both realized that neither of us had really played Oblivion. And this is so sad, but like our real experiences with Oblivion has been on PlayStation Now streaming, which is a terrible way to experience Oblivion. So fortunately for me, I want to say like, the last couple years, I've been able to dive in a little bit more, but it's still super fresh. And I've been playing it on the Xbox Series X, which is, I believe, native 4K. So it looks great. And I'm no longer streaming. So, Matt, you're thinking about playing Oblivion on Steam, maybe? Or
yeah, I'm thinking
Game Pass?
Steam or Game Pass for me. And I have not played any Oblivion either. The farthest I got was the prison escape, which is literally the tutorial. So I know nothing about this game. A lot of my Bethesda knowledge comes from either looking up lore videos or Skyrim. And so I love this world. It's such a big universe, and I'm very excited to see what Oblivion's about. So if I mean, at this point, we haven't played this game. We're going to be trying to dodge spoilers, but yeah, just keep that in mind as we're playing through this.
Yeah, we'll set it up so it will be pretty spoiler free with the Oblivion playthrough, because I don't think in the series we'll finish it.
Right.
But we'll be laying the groundwork, and there'll be a lot of interesting discussion as it comes to like the role playing element.
Yeah, because like I remember
cool.
having I was telling you about my friend Cody. He was a huge Oblivion fan, and he was trying to sell me this game at the time. I think it was on Xbox 360 maybe. And he was trying to get me to play Oblivion, but for some reason I didn't get hooked till Skyrim. So I'm excited to kind of backtrack and see what he was talking about. Where was that magic hitting for him? Yeah, I'm excited to even compare it with where it has ended up going, and then even with now mods and what people want for Elder Scrolls 6. So it's going to be very cool. I'm excited to talk about it with all you guys.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rumors of an Oblivion remaster or remake. So hopefully that happens, because that would be cool synergy. But regardless, it's a game that we've both been wanting to play. Yes. So that'll be super fun. It'll be structured similar to the way that this has been structured, where we're kind of like, we have an outline, but we also are gearing it more towards interesting discussion, interesting conversation. So that will be the plan in the next couple weeks. And so we're going to wrap up the episodic breakdowns of the Fallout series. Season 2, I saw that they announced that they're working on it. They're trying to get it out as quickly as they can. I believe they're finishing up writing or starting writing, but I think they're going to move pretty quickly. I have a feeling like we'll probably be seeing Fallout Season 2 in the next like year and a half, probably, is my anticipation.
I'm hoping for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about how it ended. So the episode description, those are always kind of fun. This one is just war ... which is alluding to war never changes, which is kind of the motto of the series dating back to Fallout 1. So, Matt, what did you think of the beginning? Just give us your like top level thoughts. I'll do a quick summary after this, but I just want to hear your reaction.
We get a Maximus intro this time.
Yes.
And that was different and cool. It picked up right off where we last left him, leaving with the head back to the Brotherhood. And this time they're in Philly. I thought it was dark, high stakes, right? Really, what's going to now happen? We've been wondering how the Brotherhood's going to respond to Maximus's actions this whole time. And I think it ended up going very, well and kind of what we expected and wanted to set up this last episode. So I thought it was good. Is it one of the best intros? No, but it's getting the episode going because there's a lot to show and share in this episode. A lot to kind of unveil the veil, lift the veil on everyone. So they had to get to it. So it kind of just jumped straight into story instead of like, other intros were interesting because it was more of like a backstory of what's happening to a certain character or something like Cooper
like a
Howard.
Flashback or
Right. But this one's a little bit different and it gets right to it. And I think it's just because, like I was saying, there's a lot to uncover in this episode.
Yeah, last episode you mentioned you were like kind of hoping in a way that they could have put some of the events in this episode into episode 7.
Yeah.
Is there anything that caught your eye in this episode specifically? Anything that stood out to you when you were watching it? Where it's like that Leonardo DiCaprio Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme where he's like staring at the TV snapping. Like, is there anything like that happened?
I think I understand after a second watch what the writers were thinking with this last episode. And going back and thinking about how they tackled Westworld as well, I recognize the pacing is very similar, where they want to keep you on the edge of your seat, pondering and thinking about this world. This world's so interesting, and then have this big flood of whoa at the end, right? And that's what they did here, and it ended up working well in that way, especially after a second watch. After that first watch, though, it was the first time around, it was very hard because it was a lot. And I knew watching it again, watching it after the first time, I wanted to watch it a second time. This time, yep, it was better. The pacing, I understand. But still, I think if I could take one thing out of this last episode and move it into 7, it would be something to do with either the vault and what's going on with what's going to even happen in the vault. Like, I felt like you got a little bit more with Vault 32, 33, 31 and with Norm, uncovering that. And I think some of that could have played out in the previous episode. They used it well in this episode, but feel like we got the least from Norm, and and we're just kind of left with him looking if he's going to go into his father's cryo chamber or not. So I think there could have been a missed opportunity to throw some of that payoff forward in an earlier episode, and then create some sort of different cliffhanger with him. I don't know. That's what my initial thoughts go on based off of that subject.
So how'd you feel about, besides Norm, how'd you feel about the overall conclusion of the season? Were you happy walking away from the season with the way that all the other characters' plots developed or resolved or didn't resolve?
I think it's great. I think it ended very well. Again, like everything got mostly resolved or resolved and then another question in its place, which is great. Great writing. Again, the only thing that feels somewhat weird is that pacing where sometimes things feel like they're forcing it all together to just have this big moment. One of them we can explore more deeply is the father being a villain. This whole entire season, you're not expecting some. Oh, you could be expecting something like that, but there's not too many tells. Now there is, because but kind of watching it back and watching him and watching that character change, where you realize like he has a darker side. It was a little weird, but I would say I do appreciate his explanation of Moldaver and him being the same, and the factions and the discussions about like time wanting to outlast the factions. We want to get over the factions. I thought that was super interesting and awesome to tie up the first season of Fallout, because at the end of the day, that's what creates this world, all that lore, and the order that all the factions are in and how they interact with each other. I thought that was super interesting. No one's necessarily good. No one's necessarily bad. Everyone's out for themselves. And I think they did that really well. A lot of my complaints are very small, Spencer. I really did like this last episode, and I like the show overall. The second watch even made it better.
Yeah, so I'll write down, or I'll mention some of the themes I wrote down. I think loyalty, I think power, and then this is specific to the faction, but a new brotherhood. Right. Essentially, we're building something new with this faction, with Maximus and his rise to power, right? Like there's got to be a huge theme moving forward. And I think it's a sick ending where Dane raises Maximus's hand up and they're like, Knight Maximus, yes. Knight Maximus, Knight. Yes. Like, that was really cool.
Yes.
In the earlier, I don't remember who said this. I like furiously write down quotes as I'm watching, just because I think that there's so much you could unpack when you have the exact words at an easy recall. So this one I missed because it was early, but someone mentioned your entire life you've been looking for a home, build one with me.
He's telling Maximus this. This is his, the monk, the leader monk.
Okay.
I forgot what they're called, though. Their titles.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking would be a cool reveal is if that character was the man in the power suit armor that saved him.
I totally got that vibe. Like, he's dad,
right?
Dude. Yeah.
Dude, that would be cool, because you would see why someone like Maximus would fall into the sense of security with the Brotherhood, right? So it would be a cool connecting point, and I really like they showed that scene so often that I'm kind of thinking now on the second watch, like, shoot, are we going to see a young version of the leader of the Brotherhood? I'm forgetting his name, but like, are they going to show him take off the mask and like that's the origin story of their relationship, and we're going to try and explore that father and son dynamic in season 2? That could be really cool and a really interesting lane for them to take.
It's also interesting in the beginning where he just told Lucy that he's gonna find her, he's gonna make a home with her, and he's riding in the helicopter back to Philly, and he's looking at the power armor, and I can tell him he's already thinking like, I started out this whole thing, all I wanted was power armor, and now he's thinking about Lucy and a home,
right?
And he's remembered of when he's a kid and all he wanted was a home, and so now it's really cool to see that further develop. And then not only that, that's causing internal struggle, but then like you said, that the leader monk, the Brotherhood, says your entire life you've been looking for a home, build one with me. Build me an army.
Yeah, it's super Star Wars, right?
Build me an army.
So the quick summary then is, we start with the Brotherhood of Steel, and then we go to Griffith Observatory with Moldaver. We go to Vault 31 with Norm and Bud Askins. We go to a flashback of Vault Tech where I wrote down a ton of quotes because I just feel like this is a ton of lore just being dropped on us in that one meeting. There. Right. And then we have Moldaver again. And we have Philly, we have Lucy and Hank kind of unpacking a little bit more details. Then we have Maximus awakening, and then the ghoul and Dogmeat and Lucy, and then we get that scene of New Vegas. So I kind of want to go through some of the lines that I wrote down, because I think those lead to the most interesting discussion. So a couple, and we may be a little bit more bouncing around than normal, just because this episode is very integrated.
It's back and forth between everything. One moment you're with one character and then the next.
I believe the monk guy is Elder Cleric Quintus, by the way. I'm seeing that on the Fallout Wiki.
Quintus.
But so my observations towards the beginning of the episode these are the loose ones, kind of loose change. These are my snapping at the TV, so this is kind of all throughout. Bud Askins' little car, so when they're at the flashback, he drives up next to Cooper Howard, and he has this comically small car, and I thought that is the filmmakers telling us something about Bud Askins, that he is this nefarious, dangerous supervillain who we can laugh at and definitely we can underestimate, right? And he himself just kind of writes off his mistakes of his career. He's not afraid of failure, and you kind of wish that he was, because he's destroying generations through what he defines as management, and he's kind of that classic poster child for the ultimate middle manager, right, that you're working under. And so I thought that was an interesting way to characterize his character, is in that little tiny car. I thought that was funny. Another one is that, he calls his up and coming executives buds, which I think is, again, it's a very condescending corporate way to kind of be like, we're all family here, and this is just innocent, and we're just doing what's right for mankind, and it's all with a wink and a nod. So it's like he's got his little car, he's got buds, he's really this demented kind of seemingly harmless but ultra dangerous character. And then later, he has the initiating Protocol 53, which is him with this little syringe. And again, it's that comedy of, everything's by the book. Somehow he still gets his way, even when things go wrong. But, I wrote that down. I wrote down that he uses the word vertical integration. In that meeting
where they're having that big meeting with all the other competitors, right? I noticed that there was someone standing on the second floor, and you couldn't see their face. Is that a foreshadow for maybe season 2? And that's the guy in New Vegas, maybe, who he's going to go see?
The rumors is that is the president of the Enclave. So the idea that I've been seeing circulate is that, in the show they mention how America sells its future to private corporations. So someone has to be at that point of sale, and that would most likely be the Enclave, is what I've seen from theories. So someone looked up the president of the Enclave and then compared it to the silhouette, and they look pretty similar. So in a way, the government is kind of still manipulating the strings and overseeing the corporations and working in tandem with them. That's one of the theories, because we do see the Enclave in this season when we're at the facility, right? That really cool scene with the dogs. So they exist in this show, and we're just trying to figure out the extent. Do they still exist, and what's the extent of their relationship with Voltec? And so another random, these are just kind of the notes that I had to jot down really quickly, and I want to get them out so we don't forget them. But I wrote down in the meeting that there was Robco, Westtech, Big MT, Vaultec, and Repcon. So I know of Robco, obviously. Big MT, my experience with them is in the Fallout New Vegas DLC. I want to say it's called Old World Blues. And then Repcon and Westech I would need to look up myself for later. But then we got the fact that Hank is a huge fan of Mr. Howard. I thought that was another interesting tie-in that we'll get into later. And then we also have the Death Claw skeleton. So that's a tease, I think, for season 2 and New Vegas. I want to say in New Vegas, when you start out, there is a path that you could take that leads you into like Death Claw Valley, essentially. Yes. And you're not really supposed to go down that path. So I think this Death Claw skeleton is kind of alluding to the ushering us into the desert and a more dangerous territory.
Absolutely.
So some of my notes on the Griffith Observatory, the first scene, is Lucy arrives and she kind of says, I'm not going to just walk in here and blow everybody up. That's not how I was raised. And I think that's irony, right? Because that's literally what her dad did.
I know.
What'd you think of that line?
Funny. Yeah, I thought the irony was so funny with that line because I was thinking the exact same thing you were thinking. Your daddy actually drops bombs, baby.
Right. And so they go in to discover who he really is. Moldaver says, you think your father was born in a vault like you, like your brother. He never told your mother where he's from. I think that's what she said. I was trying to, she's leading into this, like, he's from a cryo chamber. Right. And she describes the mom as, she was like you, kind, loving, and curious. But then he wiped the surface clean, burned it to the ground, shady sand. That's how Vault-Tec deals with competition like they did 200 years ago. When Vault-Tec bought my research, they made it proprietary, so only a Vault-Tec minion could activate cold fusion. So cold fusion is the MacGuffin of this whole series, and this is Moldaver's pet project that's kind of... She sold it to Vault-Tec, which I think would be interesting to find out more about. Why did she sell it? Was she in control of that deal? And Vault-Tec used it as a means to basically quiet the research, quiet the development, shut it down in a sense, so that way the war could continue. They could continue profiting off of the war and the end of the world. Right. So then, they're trying to figure out or Lucy's trying to figure out what happened to her mother. Right. And let's see. So then we have, let's see, that woman over there, she's no different than me. That's what you were talking about, where Hank is trying to blur the lines between him and Moldaver. Kind of. Why do you think he really sees himself as parallel to Moldaver, or do you think Moldaver is more like the ghoul? Because we kind of see comparisons between the three of them in the show, where Moldaver kind of gets compared to the ghoul in a sense, but then she also now is being compared to Hank. Do you think she aligns? Not aligns, but do you think she serves as like a parallel to any of these characters, or do you think each of them handle their situations entirely different?
I mean, I think they all handle things a bit differently, but they all do share that same common factor that they're like kind of head of the faction in a way, even though they really aren't. But in terms of what they are in serving in this first season, they are like the heads, and they all have the same goal of executing whatever they think is the perfect solution to this wasteland problem. And I think it's exactly that where he finally realizes that Lucy is catching on that he's murder of thousands of people basically, but he's trying to say so is she. And Lucy look past the murder and look at like what we're trying to accomplish and pick a side. And it's obviously my side's the better choice. Look at where you grew up. It's better. Right. And what's interesting about all this is it's just war and it never changes. This is how we fight our wars. What the enemy thinks that they're, the good guys, and to them, we're the enemies and we think we're the good guys. Right. So it's just a totally cool and interesting commentary on that subject.
Yeah, he tells her, like, look at the surface. He says, everyone equally afraid, equally miserable, forced to do horrible things in order to survive. Lucia had to make a choice between their violent world and our peaceful one. But the problem with his argument is that he's indoctrinated Lucy to do the right thing, and Lucy doesn't believe in doing the right thing if it means destroying others. Right. And by him deceiving her as a child, if she was a program, he put a bug in the system, right? Because he never wanted her to know that he was willing to damage and hurt others at his own safety. Her understanding of the vaults is like, no, we're gonna save the world. We're gonna protect people. We're gonna help people. And his view of the world is, no, we're gonna help us. This is just for us. This is not for them. And so that's where I think his plan started to fall apart, and where Moldaver has the advantage over Hank when it comes to influencing Lucy. So totally. In Vault 31, this is where we meet Bud Askins. What did you think of Norm and Bud's entanglement in that vault? How do you think their first interaction went?
I think it's funny how he's like a little cleaning robot, like a Roomba. Right. But he's actually he looks like a remote controlled RC car with a brain attached to it.
Which is very Fallout.
Yeah. But it also reminds me of, in a strange way, also, what is it called? Futurama. How they have the heads of famous old people, celebrities, still in jars. And I just think that was funny and cool. Was that supposed to be Bud, like his brain in there?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think he regretted putting his brain in there. Like, he wishes he preserved his body, but in order for him to manage, in order for him to manage all the bodies, he can't sleep. Like, that's it's staggered, but he has to be the through line that keeps everyone in line. So he had to make that sacrifice, which is a wild sacrifice to make. Right.
That's a little bit kind of like Transcendence, that movie with Johnny Depp or whatever, where he puts his consciousness in a computer.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a funny encounter, and I really like how he pulls out the needle to probably make him fall asleep or something. And he's like, stay there, just hold on, just stay right there, I'm coming for you.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a really good consistency between the silliness of Bud Askins and then the silliness of him in his brain Roomba, as the Wiki calls it. But the other thing that I noticed was, what was the goal of Vault 32 and 33 and 31? Mm-hmm. And what we get the idea is that this is a super breeding program. Right. So it is one cohesive unit to create the ultimate managers. So we still don't have a super clear idea how the famine of Vault 32 and the breeding of people from Vault 32 has anything to do with Vault 33, why those different factors. But we know that their end goal was to create like this perfect breeding pool, super breeders, genetically kind of focusing the management of the vaults. So I thought that was interesting. And then let's see. So then in Vault Tech, this is where a lot is revealed, right?
Yeah.
So this is the meeting. Yeah, Cooper Howard decides to infiltrate Vault Tech and find out what's really going on. And his wife tells him something to the effect of, most guys like as nice as you, or most guys who look this nice, wouldn't be willing to get their hands dirty. And so Cooper Howard was slowly being lulled into this, conformity of the corporation. But then as the ghoul, he has his own individual goal of finding his family, and he is now completely willing to, he's the definition of willing to get his hands dirty. So I thought that was a cool way to also, on so many levels, she doesn't know that Cooper Howard is getting his hands dirty to find the truth. He's betraying her in that moment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. And then it also alludes to Hank and what Hank McClane does when he bombs Shady Sands.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also, again, she's getting her hands dirty, right? With her willingness to serve the corporation's ends and goals and their desire to control everything. So she's certainly getting her hands dirty. So they say that this is a collaboration between like-minded corporations to make America great. Rumors of peace negotiations have set us back. So Vault-Tec is in this place of vulnerability because the Great War is being rumored to be in peace talks, and they don't want that to happen. And the other corporations are saying, well, aren't you guys kind of on the back foot here? Why do we need to work with you guys? Peace, and they admit, Vault-Tec is yeah, we know that the peace negotiations aren't going to really help us, but they sell this vision of the future. What if people are still alive on the surface is one of the corporations lodging questions about the vault, because they're selling the vault, and he goes, well, what if there's still people alive on the surface? And they describe that essentially there's rats under the vault, but there's animals that are ravaging each other over the surface. And it's none of it sounds super appealing. It's kind of you're either a rat that's being controlled or you're this animal in the wasteland, right? And so their ultimate weapon of mass destruction is time, which what they believe is the apex predator. So time is the weapon that they'll use to defeat all their enemies. And they say let's see, when I think about the future, I think about my daughter, Janie. So, again, she's making this sacrifice of many for her own flesh and blood, a lot like Hank, right? And a lot like the ghoul. Think about how many people have been killed in the name of this little girl between both her parents. It's pretty wild. So season 2 is going to have to show what happens to both,
right.
Barb and Janie. So yeah, she says how do I provide her with a better future? How do we design our vault society so our children have that better future? And in a way, for Lucy, that worked up to a certain point, right? For a certain amount of time, Lucy felt like she was getting that dream scenario that Vault-Tec was dreaming up. And they say America outsourced the survival of this country to the private sector. So they have junior executives that are being trained up to rule over time. The future of humanity comes down to one word, which is management. 3 interconnected vaults. We need more ideas. So then this is their pitch to the other vaults, which is what do you guys want to do with some vaults?
I thought it was interesting how he pitched his idea of his vault to everyone, and everyone's that's not what I would do. Here's all these reasons why it wouldn't work out for me. And then, you're saying, now they're opening up the floor, and what's interesting, it's Cooper Howard's wife, Barbara, right? Barb.
Right. Yeah, Barb.
She's saying all this, and she's saying you guys can take control of your own vaults and conduct your own experiments of what you think would survive the test of time and keep you guys going, and may the best company win, basically. And now they're in.
Also, they mentioned super mutant soldiers. They mentioned developing robots, the earning potential, and then the big bomb that gets dropped is that the offering of an idea that, hey, maybe we just drop the bomb ourselves.
Right.
And so that again, I think the acting is great. Seeing Barb, who seems she's committed to the mission, but there is layers to her performance. There's a sadness as she's committing, as she's driving the knife into the heart of America.
Yes.
And then her husband, unknowingly to her, is listening, hoping that the woman that he knows at home will stand up to these men. But he's realizing that she's much higher than he realized, that she's much more committed to this than he realized. And that betrayal is really heart-wrenching to watch, because he's come on, Barb, set them straight. He really believes that his wife is this person with character and integrity, and
acting
they're
was
no,
so
we're gonna build
good.
Yeah, like we're going to build a true monopoly. This is our chance to make war obsolete.
Yeah.
War never changes, she says. So I thought that was super cool as a scene. Lots of great detail, and we get a lot of answers.
Yes.
Did you have any other kind of parting thoughts from that scene?
Well, I think it's interesting also to remember that before she started talking, she looked up at the possible mysterious Enclave president guy. And so there's a personal relationship there too. And I wonder how that's going to then fit into season 2. Especially with what we'll talk about, what happens at the end. So I thought that was a very interesting little bit. And oh gosh, there was something else I wanted to say, but I lost it. If I remember, I'll tell you. But yeah.
What do you think of the battle between the Brotherhood of Steel and the New California Republic?
At the observatory?
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was pretty epic, and I thought that was like one of the first moments where I really felt like there's no good guy. There's no bad guy. The whole time you're thinking the Brotherhood's good, they're cool, they're not perfect, but Maximus can make them good, all that kind of stuff. And then you feel kind of similar stories with everyone else, and now you're seeing everyone fighting, and the people who you thought were bad the whole time with Moldavia, you're kind of realizing like I kind of would have sided more with the Shady Sands dream of all things, right? With the New Republic, and now seeing those guys die, it kind of looks like the rebels from Star Wars are dying, and I don't like that, right? So it was really cool to just see that kind of unbiased battle of factions, of competition, and just really get that Fallout-y feel, that Fallout message. I think they did really well with it, and I thought another cool part was cool to see was some of the aircraft with the Brotherhood in that battle. Some of the fighting taking place from the choppers. I don't know the actual names of them. And then you see like the giant airship at the end bringing more troops in. I thought that was all super sick. Yeah.
And then I really like the scene when the ghoul comes in, when the Brotherhood are like charging in, and he gives this speech about like, I used to wear that power armor. And that's where the timeline clicks. Like, I am just someone who needs to watch something over and over again to connect all those dots. Like, I wish I was someone who could just watch once and retain all of those little moments, but it makes sense. He hates Bud Askins because of the faulty design of the power armor in Alaska. And so now he's like, I wonder if they fixed it. Nope, turns out they didn't. And I think
perfect comedy though, too.
Yeah. It's so rewarding to have all of these, like the flashbacks connect. And I think this show, more than most shows, nails the flashback. Like, I don't feel like I'm being cheated. I really don't like
payout,
when flashbacks...
right? The payoff for it.
Yes. Yeah, I just don't like when flashbacks feel like they pull you away from the current action or the current timeline of plot and consequences and the characters revealing...
they're not building the character. Yeah.
Right. And I think these flashbacks are little treats because you're seeing the moments that you've been wanting to see, and they don't let you down. Right. Because then they tie back into the future. And so I thought this was the perfect way to explain again why the ghoul is such a formidable foe, right? Totally. Because he's a veteran. So he has that combat experience. He has the knowledge of Vault-Tec, the emotional betrayal of his wife, the hatred for Hank McClane, the hatred for Bud Askins, feeling like his career went down the drain. And now he's still facing the same type of people, the Brotherhood of Steel, the New California Republic. I think it's cool that he's disloyal to anyone because you understand that this is a veteran, probably more conservative, but working in like liberal Hollywood. And so he's always a man without a country. And he still is that, but even more extreme. And now finally he has like two people that align with him, Lucy, who wants to find her dad and chase after him and also figure out what really is going on, and then dog meat. Like, that's his crew. And I think that's cool. I think they do a really good job of making him a complex, interesting character with interesting motivations. He's not just looking for his family, like this perfect, I just need to find my kids. It's like, no, who knows what he's going to do to his wife when he finds her? Like, who knows if he even wants his wife anymore? Maybe he just wants to get his child away from his wife. We don't really know how he's going to process all of that. So, like you said, there are no good guys.
I thought it was a good trope to turn off the lights and have him shoot everyone. It has been done so many times. I already think of like Chronicles of Riddick, guy who can see in the dark. But like, it's a welcome trope for me, because how else are you going to show that the ghoul can see in the dark in a really fun, cool way? This was a perfect way to do it, because they didn't hint at that at all throughout the whole entire show, other than he has kind of supernatural abilities. And so it's kind of cool to see it there, even though we've seen that so many times before with like other movies. But it was really fun, and it made it cool that he also had that, like you were saying, that knowledge to shoot underneath the chest plate. We also saw some of the NCR shooting in the neck, right? So there's some knowledge of that they have too of weak points.
And I think that's where the rad roaches go. When he's in the suit and he's like, oh, no, not there. Like, there's one here, and I'm pretty sure there's one on the chest. So again, that consistency is wild.
Yeah.
So then, we have Lucy and Hank. So again, like, so this is when the ghoul comes in and he's like, I've waited over 200 years to ask somebody one question: where's my fucking family? And that's cool to hear. Oh, okay, so that is what he wants. Like, that's for sure what he's looking for, because we're wondering this whole time, like, does the ghoul even care about that? Does he believe that his family is alive? No, he absolutely is driven by that motivation. This is where Hank basically escapes, and they chase after him. But the ghoul also ties in the fact that, like, hey, it may look like chaos, but there's always somebody behind the wheel. And that's like, basically, he calls
this is
Hank,
the LA skyline that we saw in the very first episode, right?
Oh, okay. Is it? I don't remember.
I think so, because if you remember at the birthday party, it seems like it was on the observatory side of things on the hills.
Oh,
and they were looking out
downtown
skyline. And at the end, we see it light up from the cold fusion. And I thought that was an interesting contrast there.
Right. Yeah, and he ties in that Hank wanted his signature, and then again they use that line from the cowboy film, and there's a lot of cool tie-ins, and then we have that ending with Maximus.
Right.
So overall, I think it was a great ending, really satisfying, sets up perfectly with Fallout New Vegas. Do you have any other? Oh, of course, we should mention that Lucy's mom is the ghoul.
Yeah, I was about to mention
the ghoul.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
Well, I thought it was really cool, and I didn't mention it during that the last episode. There was the flashback where Lucy is remembering walking through the cornfields and swearing that she could feel the sun. I think about that during this big reveal episode where she's learning about that, and how we got the foreshadowing several times throughout the season that it was real. It felt so real, So it really did happen. She really was on the surface, and to kind of see that pay off.
I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah,
that is wild.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Oh, that is so good. Yeah.
The other thing that I got hinted at with Lucy's mom is that Moldaver, Lucy's remembering that Moldaver was there too. There's this other woman, and she kind of took them in. It seemed like she was like a guardian in a way.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you also notice what Lucy's mom's wearing as a ghoul. She looks like nice, like someone put her in nice clothes before she fully turned, right? And there was a process to that. And you see Moldaver hold her hand and go like, we did it, like we set it out to do what we wanted to do. So it kind of hints that there was like some sort of relationship that was close between Moldava and the mom. Whether that was romantic or not, I don't think it tells you enough. But I thought that was very interesting how close they were. And so I'm kind of curious, like, I know Lucy's mom left, but what were some of the more motivations? I don't know if we'll ever really know the true motivations behind it. Was it a romance? Was it a three-way romance kind of thing? Right? I don't know.
Yeah, that pissed off Hank, or
right?
That'll be interesting. Yeah. So I think it's a great episode, and I'm sure if we watched it a third time, we would pick up on more stuff, which is crazy. Like, there's so many details.
What are you guys? You guys comment if we're missing anything from this whole series. If you guys have been following us every step of the way, there has to be stuff we missed. So please add that in the comments below. On any of the episodes, we'll be happy to respond and engage those.
Right. Yeah. No. This makes me very excited to learn more about the Enclave and the New California Republic through the games. So we're going to be tying in. I told Matt, like, with this channel, Fallout is kind of king. So we're filling in the gaps of our knowledge of RPGs while also, like, we always return back to home. So I think that, this series, definitely by the next time we get to season 2, we will have done some more Fallout series, whether it's like New Vegas or Fallout 3 or Fallout 1, Fallout 4. We'll pick some Fallout games to mine for more lore, more connections, to try to predict more cameos in season 2. I think that's the fun of having all these different ways to interact with the world, is, you play the game and then you go, oh, that makes a little bit more sense now, or, try to predict, like you said, who is that Enclave character,
we might
that
see
we're assuming
Legion
is an Enclave.
Because of New Vegas now. So, and
exactly.
I love that.
Would be cool.
Swords.
Yeah, there's a lot that they can do. So, I feel like we got to replay New Vegas before
that
we
would
get
help
to
with
season
predictions
2.
for sure. So maybe we do a little bit of refresh with New Vegas and we come back and talk here a little bit about more predictions. Do you have like one thing that you think they're going to have in season 2? Like what's like your main prediction?
Well, yeah, Death Claws for sure, right? That's got to be there. Mr. House from Fallout New Vegas. They've got to have some stuff from the DLCs of Fallout New Vegas, just because we see Big MT, which is a part of the... I mean, it would be sick to see the Sierra Madre, which is another DLC, Dead Money. The gameplay was frustrating. So if you play Sierra Madre, maybe have a guide ready, because there are some moments that are frustrating, but the world of it and the idea of it is really cool. I think seeing the Sierra Madre would be really, really cool. I'm hoping for Sierra Madre. I'm hoping for, Death Claws, Super Mutants for sure. They've teased it multiple times now. And I want to see more of that Enclave facility where dog meat is from. I would love to see more from that. What about you?
I think for sure. For sure we're going to figure out in regards to like Hank. I think we're gonna figure out if there's like. Well, I think about this. The casino in New Vegas was a vault, right? It originally was a vault, and it got renovated into a casino.
Okay.
So I think there's going to be, my prediction is there's going to be something with like that old original vault.
That'd be cool.
And Hank is going to meet up with like that head honcho guy, and there's going to be some plan to do with that, with coming out of there. I don't know. Something's going to happen with there, I believe. And then I also, this is a want, but I really liked, I can't remember his name of the character, but do you remember the robot computer that was friendly to you in New Vegas?
Oh, is it the cowboy one that like is the sheriff?
Yes. I
I
think
forget
so.
his name.
I forgot his name too, but he is such an iconic character. I would love to see him because just like the robot, we love the robot in this season. I think that would be so fun and cool to have him there. I know that you could make him like the leader of New Vegas if you want. I think I did that. So it would be interesting to see how he fits in. That would be hilarious if they made him the leader. And then the other one, like I was saying earlier, is Legion. I just think it would be cool to have that faction in there. They're terrifying. Again, I like the horror aspect of the Fallout universe, so that would be really cool, along with the Death Claws, right?
Let me see. I'm typing in Vault with plant monsters in New Vegas. Vault 22. Dude, Vault 22, do you remember? Did you ever find that vault? There's like these plant monsters.
Dude, it's been so long since I played all the way through Vegas. It's been since high school.
Okay, that would be sick and terrifying. I would love to see that vault.
Well, they have to continue the vault lore and cool stuff because that's one of the things that fans really love about every game is exploring the vaults and the mysteries and the experiments.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, thank you for watching this episode, and I'm excited because Matt and I are getting organized. We're getting our outlines so that way we know what our homework is every week, and it's just what's so cool about Fallout is there's so much to learn to connect with all the vaults. There's 100.
I wanted to ask you before we ended too. Sorry. I wanted to ask you, now that we watched it through, we talked about Thaddeus and Maximus and Lucy and the Ghoul, Cooper. Who is your favorite character from season 1 and why?
I got to go with Lucy just because I always am torn between a male and female protagonist when I play a game. But for me, I think, I started out my gameplay as a child with Time Splitters 2, where I think the first mission, I want to say you play as a woman character, and then Tomb Raider, and then, I always like Trinity, but I also love Neo. And so it's like, I think that for me, Lucy, there's a scene in this where she holds the gun and it's like a wide screen lens, like not a wide screen, like a wide angle lens. And it has this like really distorted, it reminds you of Trinity in the Matrix, like that, like almost fisheye look. And I was just thinking, also I really love the character in Resident Evil 1. I played that for the first time.
Cool.
It's Jill Valentine.
Wow.
Jill Valentine is another cool female character. I'm more drawn to them pretty often, unless it's my boy Keanu Reeves. So yeah, for me, Lucy is cool because she's had a really cool arc, and she's how I try to play role playing games the first time through. It's like I want to see the golden path, I want to do the right thing, but she's also a badass. Like when she shoots her mom, like she's just emotionally ready to move on. She's not afraid to say that she wants sex with Maximus. Like she's not like just Puritan kind of emotionalist person. Yeah, she's real. She's gritty. And so I think she's my favorite character. What about you?
First time watching around, I was definitely gonna say like Ghoul. Like I love the Ghoul, and I think in a way it's a little bit cheating because you're saying you like Cooper Howard too. That's a lot. You're liking two characters. They're really cool. But I would say after my second time around and doing the podcast with you, talking about it, I've had the most fun analyzing Maximus again.
Dude, he's a deep well. He's so the one deep that goes viral for us too, like on the shorts.
And I'm catching myself pausing on a lot of his facial expressions. Like, what are you thinking right now, bro? Like what's going on inside? And so I've had the most fun diving deeper into his character and just even trying to get in the heads of the writers with his character. And what they were trying to say about Fallout and an experience of playing Fallout. And so I think there was a lot to be said for Maximus' character now. And as a Fallout fan, I liked it. I liked it this time around. So I'm gonna say, so we
started out being like
Maximus.
Right. I love if it was like, like a fighting game or like a game where you have like playable characters like rotating on a wheel, and it's like I select the first one right away. I'm just like Lucy, and then you're like scrolling to Maximus, scrolling to the goal, back to Maximus, and you're like, fuck it, Maximus.
Dude, you know what's funny about it is like you could literally grab an earlier clip of me going, I hate Maximus. And pair with this,
he's a good
I
character.
love Maximus.
Yeah, he's layered, and yeah, you want to know what he's thinking. And like I said, the end when Dane lifts up Maximus's arm and they chant "Night Maximus," night, and he has that face of like, is he embracing it or is he gonna use the Brotherhood to save Lucy? You just never know what he's thinking, and I think that's really cool. It's inspiring
outside of Norm,
creatively.
Yeah, outside of Norm, he's one of the characters that has the most deep internal struggles in the show.
Right.
And I appreciated that a lot on the second time watch, especially when you're watching it again and you're forced to look for things that are new. And his character, it's easy for that because you miss a lot the first time through. And you're just like, what's the deal with Maximus?
Totally. Cool. Well, thank you guys for watching, and share your thoughts with us. And if you guys are looking for more RPG related discussions, conversations, we see this as a field guide. We're diving into games that we missed or games that we played, but we're like, there's still so much we don't know. And we're sharing our thoughts, our discussion, and we did that with the show because we felt like it's a good point for the spider web to shoot off from. So thanks again for watching. We'll be back next week. We're going to talk about the music of the show and compare that to the games and talk about some of the themes of the music and all that. So tune in next week, and we will see you guys all later. Don't forget to subscribe to JumbyJumbwa, JumbyJumbwa. And subscribe to the Yetti Den, and we will see you guys next time. Later. Bye.